Okay, once again, good morning, my dear students. We are still on, I'm still on giving you guide on how to write your thesis manuscript. And we have already discussed the first topics, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4. And this time, we are going to discuss chapter 5, summary, conclusion, and recommendation. And I will include in this lecture how to write the abstract. Okay, what are the contents of chapter 5? Of course, it contains the summary, the conclusions, and recommendations. These are the three subtopics in chapter 5. How to write the summary? It has to be the summary of everything from rational to objectives to the methods and design and the findings or the result of your study. Everything. You have to summarize everything. And the third part is the conclusions. No? Your conclusions should directly answer the objectives of the study. It should be concise and emphasize what knowledge or discovery your study has contributed. And the last part, of course, is the recommendations. Now, the recommendations should be based on the findings or the result of the study. What particular problems have surfaced which need to be answered or researched? Who or what groups need to be presented with the findings of your study? What bodies or groups or agencies should act upon to help resolve existing problems? Okay, let us have examples, particularly in presenting the conclusions. Okay, conclusions and recommendations. Now, since I have stated that your conclusion should directly answer the objectives of the study, we are going to see in this particular research, we are going to compare the objectives of the study and the conclusion, how the conclusions answer the objectives of the study. So there are three objectives. One is to find out the socio-demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, sex, occupation, and educational attainment. And here, the conclusion states that the respondents of the study are mostly young, majority are female, most of them are housewives, and with high school education. Okay. Objective number 2, know the major and minor environmental concerns and issues. So, conclusion number 2, the author enumerated here in the conclusions the major environmental issues and the minor environmental issues. And the third objective is to determine the significant relationship between the environmental issues and concerns and the socio-demographic profile of the respondents. So here, the third conclusion states that there is a significant relationship between the socio-demographic profile of the respondents and their perception of environmental issues. Now, in this example, the conclusions are very brief and are direct answers to the objectives. But then, you can also explore, for example, in number 3, how significant is the relationship between the socio-demographic profile of the respondents, so that you can further discuss here, while very briefly, because you have already discussed that in chapter 4, say for example, that the high level of educational attainment contributes to their perception of environmental issues and concerns, or that the female respondents have better perception of the environmental issues and concerns. Kasi naman, meron naman itong statistical tool na ginamit. So, here, in that way, you are able to contribute a new knowledge. Paano nagkaroon ng significant relationship ang demographic profile in the perception of environmental issues and concerns. So again, it is not enough that you just briefly present the direct answer to the objectives of the study, but you also have to explain a little bit, very briefly, how these conclusions contribute to new knowledge in the database, for example. How your study contributed, what is the new discovery of your study. Okay. Now we go back, I think that, okay, go back to the discussion on the abstract. So, abstract is a standalone text, so that even if you do not read the whole manuscript, you will understand what the study is all about. It is a concise, condensed summary of the whole thesis, usually 150 to 250 words only. So, ibig sabihin, you have to summarize the summary of the objectives, the research method and design, the major findings, conclusions, and major recommendation. I have enclosed in parentheses major recommendation because there are some abstracts that do not include major recommendation. But in our case, you have to include the major recommendation in your abstract. Now, in some abstracts, keywords are required, because this is for publication purposes, so that if you want to access the abstract through computer search, you just key in the keywords, and voila, the abstract of that particular publication that contains the keywords is presented to you. So for example, solid waste management, mag-key in ka lang ng solid waste management, marami nang lumalabas tungkol sa study on solid waste management. Okay. Balik naman tayo sa example. Okay. Here is an abstract. So ito yung abstract ng example ng research na present ko. So actually, the research paper has more than 50 pages from chapter 1 to chapter 5, excluding the bibliography and the appendices. Pero ito lang ang abstract niya. So how many sentences? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences to give you the whole picture of the whole study. So, himay-himayin natin ano ang content. So, this is descriptive study. It gives you the research design. Conducted in 2011. When was the study conducted? To determine the environmental issues faced by the respondents. That is the main objective of the study, to determine the environmental issues. And where? In Barangay Aguadahan, San Jose, Northern Samar. So there, in one sentence, you have the research design, when the study was conducted, the main objective of the study, the respondents, and the place of study. The next sentence includes the particular objectives of the study. It has to be presented in the abstract. No? Then, the third sentence refers to the research instrument using a researcher-made questionnaire. Then, the next one is the gathering of data and how the data were treated statistically. Andyan na. It's part of your so kung ang chapter 3, 2 sentences lamang. And then the chapter 4, ilan? 1, 2, 3 sentences, because these are the major findings of the study, only in 3 sentences. Then, the conclusion. The conclusion in one sentence, and then the recommendation, the major recommendation in one sentence. Yun ang abstract. Hindi summary. The summary, which is in chapter 5, is longer than the abstract. Kasi ang summary, i-abstract mo yan. You will have difficulty in writing your abstract if you do not have your summary. Okay? I hope that is clear now. Because this is one of the problems of thesis students, how to write the abstract. Minsan, there are students who submit their paper without the abstract. Kasi pag submit nila 2-3 pages, parang summary na rin. So, it is not an abstract. Okay? So, I hope I have contributed to your manner of writing, your method in writing your thesis manuscript. And we are done with chapter 5, the summary, conclusion, and recommendation, including the abstract. So, thank you very much for your time. And once again, good day.